Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutch Greybeard. I own about 2,800 books, a little more, but who's counting? Up until recently, I didn't really feel any need to minimize that number. There is plenty of room in my apartment, although practically every available wall is occupied by one or more bookcases. In a video dating from November of 2023, I did a brave attempt to thin out my enormous TBR by eliminating the books I most probably was not ever going to read anymore. Having started on this journey into fantasy, my interest in a lot of literary fiction had deteriorated. But all the books I took out of my TBR during that video still lived on a couple of separate bookshelves somewhere here in my apartment ever since. So it wasn't that brave after all. Instead of actually unhauling them, I gave them another place in my house. This time will be different. I will unhaul almost half of my library. Why that is requires some explanation. It's funny to see how circumstances can change one's perspective. My life is on the brink of a major plunge into the deep. Thankfully, all is happening with my full consciousness and consent. For those of you who don't know, I work as a self-employed content writer. For several clients in the IT business, I write articles, content for websites and the like. Since 1992, I had been working in employment, but at the end of 2008, I quit my job to start my own business. All those years, I have done reasonably well. Not that I got rich in any way, far from it, but I earned enough money to pay the bills and buy a bottle of wine every now and then. In the summer of 2024, two major changes occurred. I actively ended one of my assignments with a client, and another long-time reliable client sold his business, leaving me stranded. This meant that 80 to 90% of my income all of a sudden came to a standstill. Around the same time, the small publishing firm I had been running with a friend for some 12 years also came to an end. This was mostly a labor of love, which we were happy to do. We published almost 40 books in those years and have never received a penny for our efforts. The amount of work became too cumbersome to keep it up, so we both decided that it was time to throw in the towel. Financially, this has no impact, but it fits into the whole picture of big changes. It took me some time, but as I tried to look for new clients and work, I realized that my heart was no longer into it. At some point, an opportunity arose in the form of a very nice assignment to write the biography of a professional musician, but that didn't come true, to my disappointment. Having been an editor, executive and chief, and a content writer for almost 30 years, it dawned on me that my energy for writing what other people wanted and needed had been used up pretty much. In between all this writing, editing and publishing for others, I wrote my own novels. I've been writing since I was 12 years old and have never really stopped doing that. I finished my first novel when I was 18, and my last must be my 6th or 7th. I lost count. I really lost count along the years. In any case, only the last two were published, and that is what I would love to be doing with my time, to write my own stories. So there I was, with some savings to hang on for a bit of time, but with no plans for generating any income in the near future. After I got used to the idea of quitting my content writing business, the idea of seriously writing this story that has been tumbling around in my head for the last few years grew. But to create the financial leverage for that, I had to come up with a plan. Since I bought this apartment in 2015, its value has increased significantly. So the idea is to sell the place. With the proceeds, I should be able to buy myself a mobile home to live and work in. In about 7 years from now, I can officially retire and receive a modest pension. Hopefully, I can last that long on my savings and perhaps add some funds with an occasional assignment here and there. That's the idea, at least. That is the background of this massive book unhaul. Living in an RV means, among many other things, extremely small living space compared to what I'm used to. My 2,800 books wouldn't even fit if I stacked the vehicle from bottom to ceiling. The many changes in my professional activities inevitably led to saying goodbye to a lot of things. Websites were closed, clients were waved off, bank accounts were cancelled, etc. And, strangely enough, that felt good. It was like cleaning out a derelict house. Much of what I always regarded as sacred or important, I now could easily let go of all of a sudden. Instead of pangs of pain, I felt relief and a sense of freedom. With that in mind, I set out to do the inevitable. Unequivocally get rid of all the books I really do not need anymore. Which again, surprisingly, was much easier than I anticipated. If you had asked me to do this a year ago, I would never have been smiling as much as I'm right now. My main criteria for keeping a book are: do I have an emotional attachment to it? And will I ever pick it up, either to just browse through it or to read it? Books that are merely dead weight and that have served their purpose in a different time in my life have to be taken out. With almost 3,000 books, you can imagine that this was a very time-consuming and dusty business. The first step was to go through each and every book to decide if I really wanted to keep it. Despite the many moments of nostalgia, I had to be harsh and sometimes even cruel. Some authors turned out to be immune during this process. The books from Paul Auster, Chaim Potok, Guy Longfellow, Haruki Murakami, Jose Saramago, Isaac Bashevis Singer, a couple of Dutch writers and some others are simply staying. Which obviously also goes for my science fiction and fantasy. For all the others, time is relentless in its motion. Inevitably, this pained me in some cases, but the overall sentiment during this elimination process was that of relief. I am literally creating space for something new. The second and even more time-consuming step was to check if there were valuable books amongst the chaff. I did find plenty of titles that on the market of second-hand books appear to have some worth. I kept those apart initially without any real plan. How was I going to sell those, and to whom? Where do I find the time to do all that? When I was about halfway through that process, I grew tired of it. This is something for people who have the time and dedication to do this. They are the ones who can reap the benefits for their work. I merely want to get rid of all these redundant books in my collection. So at the moment I'm working on finding a professional bookseller who will take the whole lot off my hands for one price. No work for me, and yes, I will probably lose some money that way. But it saves me an incredible amount of time and energy, which is also worth something. And if that doesn't work out, I will simply donate them to charity. I didn't count all the books I will be unhauling, but I can make an estimate. Altogether, 45 full bookshelves will leave my possession. Each shelf contains on average 30 books. Which brings me to a total of 1,350 books. Give or take about 100 books, that is a lot. They are all the books that somehow belong to a period in my life that feels completed. They have served their purpose, and it is time for each of us to go our separate ways, which is a good thing. This means that I will keep about half of my library, which is still way too many books to have while living in an RV. The majority of those will go into storage, and I will make a selection of books I want to read in the near future to take with me. I have no idea at this point how many books I can stack in my new home. I still haven't bought the RV yet, so we'll see. I will simply have to find out through trial and error what works and what doesn't. And just to be absolutely clear, all the books on these 45 bookshelves are really going away. Do you perhaps think I have finally lost my mind? Or does it make sense to you? Have you done any unhaul of this size, or perhaps an even bigger one? Please let me know in the comments. For those of you who are interested in the 1,300 odd titles that I am unhauling, after the closing tune, I will show them to you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutch Greybeard.